You see, my life was like a going in a train. When I was starting my practice, that train was going 150 miles per hour. And what happened, looking the windows outside, the landscape was all blur. Now this train of my life is going 5 miles per hour. And when I look at through the window, I said, wow, look at that landscape. Landscape was there before, but the only thing, the circumstances were different. I am Dr. Salvatore Forcina, and you're entering a work gone good.
Well, hello, my name is Steve, and this is the place where we highlight everyday people making good happen each and every day. Welcome to World Gone Good. Today we are diving back in with another good author, and you know what that means? Wait, do you know what that means? It means, I'll tell you what it means. It means this here good author is going to plug his own book, Drown Town. It's a cozy little mystery with a nice heaping of comedy. You can grab my ebook for under $5. It's just $4.99 to be exact. You can also get a paperback if you like. Dive into Drown Town for a good time on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com and support a local, your podcast local, I guess that counts, self-published author? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Do something good. Go get a book. You'll be glad you did. Okay, look, here's where we begin today. I know there are times when I get down on myself. Like I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror and I think, why do I look like a melting candle? I'm betting a few others listening right now may feel the same way. We tell ourselves stuff like we aren't enough this, we're too much that. We think life is so hard, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not negating that sometimes it is, right? But take a minute and imagine yourself fully starting over or fully beginning again. Just go with me. Moving to a new country with, let's say, just a few dollars in your pocket, unable to speak or understand the language, and wait for it, you don't have a cell phone. I say this not because you lost your cell phone, but because there were no cell phones when I'm talking about. So you get to this new land and you start your new life from the ground up because what other choice do you have but to follow your goals, your dreams, and to go for it? That's what my guest today did. And though some may say, come on, Steve, it was a different time back then. And you'll hear in just a minute how far back then we are talking. In a lot of ways, it's not so different after all. Life is, and I dare say always has been, about taking big chances and big risks, and through all of it, changing, evolving, and growing. And that, my good listeners, is exactly what today's show is all about, because that is what our good guest did and continues to do. This is Dr. Salvatore Forcina, and this is his oh-so-good life story from cover to cover. Okay, here's how we're going to start, and it's probably not going to place you'd imagine I'd start. According to your bio, sir, 1941 is the year you were born, which is the same year my mom was born.
Oh, yeah? Oh, wow.
Which makes you roughly 82?
Yeah, I will be 83 next month, in 1 week.
In 1 week? All right, well, almost happy birthday. Okay, so question number one is this, sir, is do you feel your age?
Well, you see, mentally, no, but physically, I used to have very hectic life, very active, and now I see my limitation because if I work too fast, I get shortened of breath, I have to rest, but still I can bike 20 miles.
Wow.
4 or 5 times a week.
Do you Do you feel still like a 14-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 20-year-old, or do you?
No, I
Oh,
wish.
really?
Yeah. No, you see, when you reach that age, you are more realistic. You start to see your limitation, feel your limitations.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so take us back. Tell us where you were born.
I was born in Scaure, in Italy, in 1941. Scaure is situated between Rome and Naples. This was during World War II.
And how many years were you in Italy?
I was in Italy until the age of 8. And in 1948, 49, my parents moved to Argentina, the end of the world at that time, because my father has such an obsession about the war and the thing that went through. They were young when they married to my mother. They lost everything. And so they went to Argentina just to start a new future for me and my brother, too.
How old was your brother? Was he older or younger than you?
No, he was 18 months.
Oh,
I
wow.
was 8 years old. He was 18 months at that time.
And as a child growing up in that kind of a war torn environment, that's your normal, right?
Yes, yeah. It was see that the environment was that when we went to Argentina after the war, and you were an immigrant there, you were at the bottom of the scale. You were nobody. Nobody. They were not. There is no the welcome you have here in the United States for the benefits, and we didn't have nothing. They didn't speak the language. You were isolated. You were living in the outskirts of the city, and there was prejudice. There was no for me as a child and my parents too, because we were called the gringos, but the gringo was something a word that put you down,
Yeah.
and that was sad. That was sad. That's the environment where I grew up, and what happened is that because of that environment, there was no way that you going to have a dream for your future. And if you dare to even to mention that you were going, for instance, I was going to be a doctor or whatever, I was thinking about that, you were laughing stock. They mock you because the status was you, in some way you were at that level and you're going to stay in that level. You say you are nobody. You don't have money. You don't have connection. Who are you? You are nobody.
Yeah, but your parents really had an understanding of education being the lift.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, see, my parents in that environment where they grew up, they were usual at that time. They had big families, and there were no industry, with nothing. So they were just taking care of the grazing the animals and work in the yard, and so they went only to second, third grade. But my father have all the time. He would love to study, whatever, but there was no way. So, but had the limitation. But inside himself, he was smart enough to see that in order for you to get ahead, for somebody like the son, his son, children, was to study. That study, the study was something that there was going. We were in a hole, and to get you out of the hole was to study,
Sure.
to be somebody, to because you see at that time was there was a lot of poverty, there was a lot of misery, and whoever was a doctor, a priest, a lawyer, an accountant, when they're walking in the street, I don't know if you have seen the old Italian movie. People remove the hat and bend the bow to you, the sign of respect. So that's why to be a professional at that time was something that something big.
But you became one because they sent you to move in with priests.
Well, what happened was that when my parents lived, there was a church close by, and those priests came to preach a sermon, whatever. I was maybe 10. I was going around, and one of the priests started to talk to me and show me some pictures of children playing soccer, swimming in the pool, and were riding a horse. So this all was new to me because we didn't have nothing. So what happened was that I told my father, I said, listen, I would like to, Dad, I would like to go to, of course, my father was like hitting the lottery because he wanted for me to study, but there was no way at that age I was going to study. So that's why I went to this school, boarding school. I saw I was already living there, and I saw my parents once a year. I was 11 years old, and I was there for 7 years. I was there, and at that time, psychologically, I was, yeah, I was a child that from the street, really. That sometimes I didn't behave. I mean, nothing bad, but wise guy. So that got me many troubles, punishment, and to make a long story short, what happened was at the end of 7 years, I became my personality had completely changed. I was introverted. I was timid. I was scared. I was to confront or face people, make me shy. So I was insecure. It was a terrible thing, and that lasted for a long time.
Now, you had no English speaking background.
No. When I came to this country, when I went to Argentina, I didn't speak Spanish. I had to learn Spanish.
But I went to Italy myself, and I went with two Mexican Americans, and their broken Spanish was enough to get us through
Yeah,
parts of
you
Italy.
can communicate. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Plus, you know what happened in Italian? They had they speak with the hands.
Right. I would have to be with you to show you this, but I was in a town called Massa Labrenze, and it was above Sorrento,
Oh yeah,
and
beautiful, beautiful.
beautiful, tiny little mountain village.
Yeah.
And there was a man on his driveway putting out tables, and he waved us over, and we tried our best to communicate with him. He was serving lunch, and we were like, "Oh, sure, we'll sit on your driveway. Why not?" So we sit down, and he asked us. He was trying to ask us how hungry we were. So he put his hands on his belly
Uh-huh.
and made his belly. He go big, big, bigger, and we just started laughing. We're like, and we pointed at that, and he started bringing over amounts of food,
Uh-huh.
which I can't even tell you. But there is a common bond that we that we
Yeah.
have through
Yes.
hand and sign language. So at 28 years old, you moved to the United States.
Yes. I came to the United States because what happened was I graduated in Argentina. I was a doctor, but I decided to specialize. I decided to go to Italy to specialize. But
So
what
wait a minute,
happened?
you went back to Italy.
Yes,
For how
I
long
went.
did you go back?
I was there. I went from March to November.
Oh, a short time. Okay.
Yeah, but I was supposed to take 4 courses in the University of Naples,
Oh, nice.
and but I had to wait until the university started in September or August. Yeah, at the beginning of September. So during the summer, I was there scouting where my parents used to live. It has a beautiful beach, and a lot of people from the United States, Italian people that have migrated to the United States, they go back to see their family. And was on one occasion I saw one distal member of my family that live in the United States. We were talking, and so he says, Sal, what are you doing here? You had to come to the United States. So that was a shock to me because, my work was very limited. And say, you come to the United States, how do I do that? So anyhow, I have a cousin, I have an uncle here. I wrote to them, and they welcomed me here. So I came here, and this was a shock to me because, I mean, what a difference everything was. Organization and a facility, the library with books, whatever. I studied, when in Argentina, I studied without books. Okay, I couldn't afford the books. So, anyhow, so the thing was that I didn't speak in English, and my degree was not recognized in this country. So that's why what I had to do, I have my family, I borrowed money from them. I went to New York University for several months to learn some English. And eventually I had to take the exam. They were multiple choice. I was 28 years old. I didn't know what the multiple choice was. That's exact. Yeah, yeah, that was a nightmare. So yeah, it was very hard for me. It was very hard. So anyhow, to make a long story, after a while, I passed the exam, and that allowed me to apply for residence internship and resident program. I did 5 years of surgery, and I was specialized in trauma. I did peripheral vascular bypasses, and I did general surgery. And the last 15, 18 years, I specialized in advanced laparoscopy, with the doing surgery with the video cameras, and through small hole and local instrument do the remove the gallbladder, remove colon surgery, hernias, you name it.
That had to be mind blowing to you if you think back to your beginnings.
Yes, yes. Okay, let me tell you something. When I was with the priest, I was going through the changes, like we all got hormonal changes, teenager, okay?
Right.
And I start to ask questions. And of course, at that time, the priest, you don't ask the question. We did. I didn't know. I didn't know about women that menstruate or whatever. I didn't know. I didn't have a clue because I never spoke. I didn't have a sisters, and I never spoke with nobody about that. So anyhow, I asked some question. I was reported to the director, and the director took me in, and he said, "Listen, you, I know your parents' condition. Next time you don't behave, we're going to expel you. And what are you going to do? You are not an intelligent person." He told me that. So I was what, 14, 15, I don't remember exactly. And at that time, because of the environment in which I grew up, I didn't give any weight. I didn't even think twice about what he just said. But eventually that hit me. Because, you see, the preceptor, the instructor, they were the people they are supposed to help you,
Right, right.
explain you, to be close to, build your confidence.
Lift you up.
Yeah, he is like I was swimming, and he took me for the feet and pulled me down to drown. That's the impression I had. So that was a terrible thing. I don't wish that to nobody. Nobody.
We talk on here a lot about drive, about finding that thing in yourself, because so many people, especially since the lockdown, felt a little lost, felt a little disconnected. That's a word we use a lot on here.
Yeah.
Where does your drive come from?
Well, my drive was because I saw my parents. I have I don't have a good memory. I was very young in Italy during the war, but I saw the way that they struggle in Argentina. And you know what? They worked very hard for 30 years. And the irony is that after 30 years of work, the revolution and with inflation came, and whatever they had saved in 30 years, they lost again everything. So what happened was my father, well, at night when we have dinner, he was used to talk to me and used to tell me his youth. I mean, how was life at that time, and I say, Sal, you had to study. You want to become somebody. You want to be somebody different or whatever. Of course, I didn't understand that. But gradually, as I grew up, I remember my parents, the sacrifice they had to do for me to go to university and study. So what happened was that in the university in La Plata, University of La Plata, I share we have a house, we rent a house with different rooms, and we were like a 10, 15 students there. And the students, they were all the son of a lawyer, engineer, accountant, you name it. Estanciero, people, a lot of land and cows. So I was the son of the immigrants. So what happened? I didn't have any money. So they had the money. So now La Plata is very close to Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is a big, like a Paris in some way. And so they used to, Friday afternoon, they used to go to Buenos Aires. They have good time and they stay there until Monday morning or whatever. So that was the time when I used their books and I study, making note and this and that. And so, first of all, I couldn't do that, whatever they were doing, because I didn't have the money. And second, I would not have done that for my parents because I knew I was responsible and I knew how hard life was for them.
So sacrifices make us stronger.
Yes, yes.
Did you ever have a point where you're like, okay, this is too much, I can't do it?
Well, yes. In more than occasion, in more than occasion, as a human being, I was thinking I was going to fail. I had the energy, and it was discouraged. Plus, you know what happens? Sometimes they have also other students that they want to be wise, and they know you're fragile, and they tease you. And because of my personality, like I explained before, I was very timid, shy, whatever. I believe in them, and so I has and another thing. I really, the priest didn't teach me really how to study well. A lot of memorization of things, you know,
Sure.
and so that was. It was something very difficult. So for me, really, I learned how study and be more productive when I came to this country and I start to see things and reason. And so that was something that I had to do gradual. And in order to, it's like a child. You are learning, it's like a child learning to walk. First, try to do one step, fall down, cry, get up, and another step, and walk two steps and fall down again and cry. But keep going. And that's the way I learn. And the same happened to me. In more than one occasion, I was ready to quit. Yes, but all the time, like I say, talking to my parents, whatever, they couldn't give me a guide on what to do because they were not at that level, but they had the love, their heart, and their trust, and my father used to say, "Sal, doesn't matter if at least if you finish 1 year, you can tell you eventually say, you know what? I have 1 year at the university. I went for 1 year in the School of Medicine. You see, that's the way of thinking at the time because but, because your limitation.
Right.
You cannot be ambitious. You cannot. It's like I try to fly, but you cannot do that.
Well, you did fly though, and you took all of these stories, you took your whole life, and you put it into a memoir that you were calling, it's the title, and I love this, The American Doctor. Why? Why did you choose that title?
All right. First, the first one is when I explained to you how was the culture when my parents lived at that time. The professor and the accountant, the lawyer, they were special person. People bow, people respect you. So to be a professional, to be a doctor, was that being in the top of the mountain. You understand what I'm saying?
100%.
All right. So that was one. The other one is a very sad story because what happened, my mother was 95 years old, ended up with a stroke, and ended up in the hospital in Formia. And so what happened, and the care was just socialized system, the care, she was put in a bed in a room with another patient had pneumonia. Okay?
Sure.
And so what happened is when you had the half of the body paralyzed, to prevent bed sore, you had to be rotated. You had to prevent that. Of course, they didn't do that, and she ended up with a bed sore on the hip, the shoulder, the knee, and the ankle, gangrene, and that produced fever and pain. So anyhow, so what happened was that while I was there, I went to see. I used to go in the morning and the afternoon because I wanted for them to take care. The IV had infiltrated, and the bed was soaked. All the fluid the solution was in the bed. And so what happened? I stopped that. I went to a nurse and I said, "Listen, my mother explained what, oh yeah, we will take care." And I was waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. Now put yourself there. In my situation, I was a chief of surgery here at Holy Name in New Jersey. And so seeing the type of care that my mother was getting and the attitude of the nurses, so what happened, I fixed the IV, I took care. After a while, when the nurse came, I said, "Who did that?" Whatever. And she tried to intimidate me. Well, I had enough. We had such an argument. She yelled, I yelled back at her. So, anyhow, to make a long story short, after a while, a doctor came and he apologized. And from that day on, when I used to come to visit my mother, I used to hear the whispering, the American doctor is here. The American doctor is here. You understand what I'm saying? So now you got the picture of what I'm talking about.
And they saw that as an insult.
Well, sure, of course,
Sure,
of
right.
course, of course, of course. Yeah, because you see what happened. The system is so sad because I saw that the family or the patient, they were there half a day waiting for the doctor just to find out how the grandmother or the mother was doing. They were different system.
Sure, sure. Now, the book itself, you sat down at a computer, you wrote this, you dictated into some sort of audio device. What was your process?
We used to go to different places, function, whatever, neighbors, and sometimes they were politicians, they were lawyers, they were simple people, whatever. And everybody, they knew, they find out of my accent. Of course, I have an accent. And so, in more than one occasion, say, Date Forsina, you are from Italy, whatever, we start to talk. And the same thing that I'm telling you, how I came to this country, how to pass the exam, specialize there. I told to many other people, and they said, "Wow, that's marvelous! That you look at what you have accomplished, and you this and you that." I said, "You should write a memoir about it because it's beautiful." And of course, at that time, I had to survive. I had to, in the beginning, to establish your practice, you had to work a night and day. And this is what I did. And it never occurred to me that I was going to write a book. So when I retire, and I live in the villages in Florida, I retire here, I have more time, and You see, my life was like a going in a train. When I was starting my practice, that train was going 150 miles per hour. And what happened, looking the windows outside, the landscape was all blur. Now, this train of my life is going 5 miles per hour. And when I look at through the window, I say, wow, look at that landscape. Landscape was there before, but the only thing, the circumstances were different. So anyhow, so what happened was that I have more time, more relaxed, and I start to write down a few things in the iPad. I start to write and write. So eventually, I send some pages to my daughter, and she's a lawyer. Vanessa is a lawyer, and she said, "Danny, that's beautiful. You should continue." And she encouraged me, and gradually, I start to write, remembering my childhood, the thing I had to go through, and the main thing why I wrote this book is really I have a granddaughter. She's going to be 9 years old now, Lennon. When she's a teenager, I want for her to read this book because perhaps she's going to have some moment on her life, difficult moment, didn't know what to do. Perhaps maybe one night she open the book, read some pages, and she can say, "Wow, look at my grandpa, what he had done." And so that's the main reason why I want to leave a legacy uh, that somebody came to this country without nothing and accomplished something. I want for her or even other people or whatever that they have much more than they have at that time. If they work hard and they apply themselves, they can do much better than me. And that's the meaning I want for the reason why I wrote this book.
And it's never too late.
Never too late. Never too late. Don't give up. Don't give up. Of course, the main thing you cannot give what you don't have. If you don't have a little bit of flame, a little bit of fire inside, maybe the charcoal is just doesn't have the flame, but have still a little red or whatever, covered by ashes. Maybe you blow a little bit air, remove the ashes, and blow, give us an oxygen, and you start a flame. Maybe, but you have to have something inside. You cannot start a fire without nothing.
Where do people find this book and how do they buy it?
You can purchase the book in Amazon and also in Barnes and Noble. And people can follow me up on Instagram, that is Salvatore Forcina MD. And there are plenty of pictures there, my family, my parents. And people can, I would like to hear from people to read the book and hear from them like their comment because I have received a comment for different spectral life, different people, different, and I appreciate that.
We close these shows with two questions. Don't panic. You know the answers. Question number one is this: who inspires you?
Well, the inspiration came from my parents. My father used to talk to me, and I was lucky. I was a lucky person. Beside all the adversity, I was a lucky person because I have two parents that believe in me and they guide me in the best way they could. And because of them, I become somebody in life.
And the final question is not a question. It is a statement to finish. You can go back to anything we've already talked about or anything you want to say. Finish this statement. Tell me something good.
Well, I want for people to improve their life. There is no matter what, even the odds are against you. If you persist and you work hard, you're going to change your life and you're going to accomplish. And I have many patients, Spanish patients, I speak Spanish. In more than occasion, I had a conversation with the kids because it was very difficult for them. They apply themselves, they speak the language, whatever. I say, you know what? Look at this. You are here, at least you came here. I did this to one of the doctors from Cuba. The poor lady couldn't, she was a pediatrician, she couldn't pass those exam, and she was working in the operating room, cleaning, mopping the floor. And the poor lady, I say, you know what? At least you left Cuba, you were able to, and you brought your son. You are doing all the sacrifice now to, and the kids was very good. He was in the university, and you are doing. You couldn't accomplish practice, continue practice in this country, but at least you give a future to your children, to your child, and that's you should be very proud of that. And that's what it's about.
Thank you, Sal, for sharing your good journey. Go get his book, The American Doctor, and give it a read. You'll be glad you did. Next time on World Gone Good.
I love being a creative. I'm built that way, so I don't know what it would be like not to be. I just know that if I'm not creative, I'm not very pleasant to be around. I have been told that once or twice.
Who's ready to get your creative on with my pal Heather Tyler? She was previously on our show last year when we talked about the play we did together, my play, Happy Birthday McKenna. And now she's back for some more good times, specifically to discuss her new independent film, Flipside. Have you ever thought, oh, I have a great idea for a movie? Have you ever thought, God, I want to make something out of this idea? What do you do? Where do you even start? How the hell do I do that? This is the episode for you. It's an episode about creativity. It's about art. It's about laughter, which we do a lot together anyway. So I'm happy to share her with you. Can't wait for you to hear it. Until then, be good.